Good evening and welcome to another episode of Monkman Talks. If you watched episode 2 of How to Act, then you should already understand what episode 3 is about. Um, and so, without talking about episode 2, let's jump right into episode 3 How to Act Without Killing. If a perspective is not supported by proven facts and repeatable critical thinking, then you should consider that perspective may be built on a shaky foundation. If you use any perspective with a shaky foundation to approach life and attach your ideas and actions to it, you should expect the foundation of your life to become more shaky and the outcome of your aimed intentions less reliable. When our leaders issue orders to shoot and kill the other person, it's because our leaders were incapable of thinking of how to come to terms through pure logic and understanding. The Russia-Ukraine war is not the first time one neighbor has invaded by force and killed so many of its own and its neighbors' people. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, also known as the Special Military Operation, we have talked in circles arguing perspectives weighing if Putin is right to invade Ukraine or if he is wrong. Some have been firmly set that Putin is right to invade Ukraine under the circumstances, while others, including myself, have been firmly set that he is wrong. My goal with this writing is to prove Putin is not justified to attack Ukraine, even if he believes there is an existential threat encroaching on Russian territory, and even if he believes he has the right to rule the territory, or even if he believes he has a responsibility to rule the territory. I will not agree that he thinks there is an existential threat, and will only agree that he believes there is one, because Putin's perspective and resulting actions are only marginally satisfying, no matter what angle you look at it. A thoughtful solution would be wholly satisfying every time. If Putin refuses to elaborate or argue what he thinks in the information realm and instead chooses to force what he believes with military force, then the results will not be thoughtful. His victory will be corrupted by the overwhelming scar following his approach of what he believes and what he wants. Again, his victory will be corrupted by the overwhelming scar following his approach of what he believes and what he wants. The fall from corruption may not occur in his lifetime, but it will occur. If he thinks there is an existential threat encroaching on Russian territory which justifies force against Ukraine, then show us the thought process leading to this determination and that these actions were right, and if they are full of thought, they should be wholly understandable and wholly agreeable. Except employing your army because you're losing the information war partly proves that Putin's message was not thoughtful enough to be wholly satisfying. Instead of wholly satisfying, what you get from Putin is special military operation. Clearly, Putin is having trouble communicating in a wholly convincing way how his special military operation is a war to defend Russian sovereignty and not anything other than a hostile invasion. That is why he has called his invasion Special Military Operation instead of Operation Russian Liberation. Maybe Putin has a good reason to engage in a special military operation that moves and acts like a full-scale invasion, and only a very few exceptionally smart individuals can understand how Putin is justified to kill and maim his Ukrainian neighbors, and that you need to get smarter to understand Putin's message and reasoning. What is more likely is that Putin believes he should get what he wants. When a person's explanation is as indirect as special military operation, you can almost guarantee they do not have a repeatable thought process which solves true and right. When a person has trouble thoughtfully explaining what they believe, they almost always start to throw spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, and maybe try to convince you that the territory was always theirs. Try to convince you war is for your benefit. Try to convince you war was your idea. Try to convince you war is necessary for your survival. Try to shame the victims for causing the attack. While throwing stuff to see what sticks, Putin might even declare he is allowed to solve solely for war and does not need to solve for peace because he was not awarded the most recent Nobel Peace Prize. The perspective that you should not let the West take over Ukraine may be justified and right, but the idea that you need to use force is unjustified and wrong. An olive branch of understanding must be extended and held on to. Putin needs to verbalize his understanding in a way that everyone understands and agrees. This reality is only as far out of reach as our leaders' ability to comprehend the complex mechanics of how to act and reach for what they think, want, or believe. If our leaders would stop focusing on amassing military power and instead focus on understanding the complex mechanics of their reality, then the reality where leaders match wits and understand when they have lost an argument and why would be close to dawning. Sometimes two nations want to fight each other. However, if they rely on thinking, then they will resolve the debate without a single person killed. If Putin thinks that the nation of Ukraine should be Russian territory, all Putin needs to do is clearly articulate what he thinks so that the citizens understand and they will declare themselves Russian territory. Citizens would also be able to articulate what they think and why their choice is best for them and their families if they declared themselves Russian territory. No one will choose a side of the fence unless they believe or think the grass is greener on that side of the fence. The war proving Russia is a better nation for Ukrainian people should be fought in the individual consciousnesses of Ukrainians, and when each person chooses which is best for them, the fence line will become defined. If both Ukraine and Russia had their hands grasping for an olive branch of understanding and truth, then their hands would be too busy to point guns at each other. Putin thinks, and rightfully so, that Russia has a greater and stronger military, and Putin believes that Russia has an inherent right to consider Ukraine Russian territory, even if Ukraine's neighbors to the west have a better deal for the Ukrainian citizen. Putin has made clear he does not want Ukraine to align with any Western neighbors. The real repeatable and proven solution would be to explain to Ukrainians why they should be Russian in a way Ukrainians agree with, or for Putin to offer Ukraine such a great deal that Ukrainians want to consider themselves Russian. If Putin can't articulate why Ukrainians should start to call themselves Russian in a consistently and repeatable manner Ukrainians should choose to endorse, then Putin should not believe Russia has right to adopt that Ukrainian territory, nor should Putin attempt to attack Ukraine until they agree to join Russia as their only option over certain death. So long. If Putin can't articulate why Ukrainians should start to call themselves Russian in a consistently and repeatable manner Ukrainians choose to endorse, then Putin should not believe Russia has a right to adopt that Ukrainian territory, nor should Putin attempt to attack Ukraine until they agree to join Russia as their only option over certain death. Putin is literally attempting to force what he believes is true on people who clearly do not agree with him. If Putin could articulate his belief better and prove his thoughtfulness to Ukrainians, then Putin could capture territory without firing a shot. The special military operation would not be necessary if Putin worked on articulating his belief until the people of Ukraine understand and agree with him. Instead, what you see is a Russian military invasion of Ukraine. Thank you.